Hello. Hello and welcome to Town at Eastbourne's live making workshop. My name is Amy and this is the 6th artist-led making workshop in this series, in which we're going to explore relaxing by making tools for our senses. Last week we explored weaving, and in previous sessions we've explored squashing Play-Doh, spinning wind chimes, floating bubble snakes and making ink and mark making tools together. Hello! Hi everyone! So if any of the previous sessions sound appealing, or if you know anyone who'd be interested in them, you can check them out on this Instagram account, Town at Eastbourne's Facebook or website, where you can find recordings, downloadable making guides and all the information for the materials needed. A big hello again if you came along to the previous sessions, and a big welcome if you're joining us for the first time. Hello. This is the last session I'll be hosting in this series, but keep your eyes peeled and stay tuned for more exciting at-home activities from Town at Eastbourne, including the next artist's live making workshop. Hello! Okay, so these workshops are part of the #MakeshiftStudio project on Instagram. A little bit of information whilst everyone joins us. #MakeshiftStudio is a making challenge set by the Town team each week using basic materials found in the home. This week's making prompt was stretch, inspired by an incredible drawing of badminton players. So slotting in with that theme, we are interpreting that feeling by making things that might help us relax at home. I definitely recommend checking out the previous #MakeshiftStudio provocations, just inspiration around the home, and keep an eye out for any upcoming ones. Great. We do this every week, but whilst people join us, everyone is welcome to take part. If you're a child, please ask an adult to work with you. Ask permission if you're borrowing anything, and if you're choosing extra materials that aren't detailed on the making list, please don't use any sharp, precious or breakable things. Okay, so feel free to use the comment section if you have any questions or suggestions, and we'll just check in on each other as we make. This live making workshop is a space in itself for us to relax and connect with each other, so please feel welcome and encouraged to use the comment section below. So hopefully you'll have had a chance to look at the materials list needed. Don't worry if you haven't. Hello. I'll go through them now. There'll be about 3 small parts to this workshop. So the first thing we'll do is sensory lava lamp experiments. The second thing we'll do is squishy objects. And the third thing, I'll just show you a few breathing tools that I have around. So I'll go through the material list for each section as we go along. If you are watching the recorded version and there is a particular part that interests you the most, you're very welcome to fast forward to that bit. Okay, so the first activity we are going to do is making a homemade lava lamp. For this we are going to need a clear bottle or a clear plastic container, so either of them works. They should be empty and clean, and I am going to use this empty old yogurt pot first, just to show you the experiment, since it seems to have more of an effect in a container with a wider opening to allow the gas to release, and then afterwards I'm going to decant it into this. So either or and or both, if that makes sense. If you would like to keep your experiment, it's always a good idea to decant it into a bottle, but if you just want to experiment, see what happens, this works. A container just works just as well. Okay, hello. So we're going to need some water. We are going to need some oil. So I've just got vegetable oil. I'm sure other oils work. The quantity, we're going to need quite a fair bit. So we're going to need about 2/3 of whatever container you've got, if that makes sense. We're going to need, I think on the making guide I wrote 2 tablespoons of baking powder, but this obviously varies depending on the size of your container. So I would say 2 tablespoons max for if you're using like a really big bottle. If you're not, just decrease the measurement. So I'm just actually going to use 1 tablespoon of baking powder. I'm going to need, if you'd like to colour it, you can use some food colouring, but the experiment works just as well without. And we are going to need some vinegar. So I've got some white wine vinegar because I find it affects the colour. If you're adding food colouring, it affects it a little bit less. But I've also got some malt vinegar, and I can maybe show you the effect as we go along of both of the different vinegars. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to take my container and I'm going to fill it around 1/3 full of water. And again, it's just a guesstimate, it doesn't have to be exact. If it's helpful, you can always make a little marker with a pen or something if you're not really sure where it goes. And then I'm going to add, because this container's not that big, I'm going to add a tablespoon of baking powder. Again, I think this is a tablespoon. And it's, I'm going to emphasise that it is an experiment, so if anything goes wrong, don't worry. Lots of things have gone wrong when I've been trying out different quantities. If you feel that it bubbles up too much and you've got too much baking powder, you could just always add a little bit more water, and I'm just going to stir this in. There'll be a slight fizz as it combines. I tried it in different size containers and just experimenting and seeing what happened, so don't worry, just keep on going. It's all kind of just testing things out. So we've got our baking powder and our water in here, and it's expanding, as you can see. So I'm going to fill my cup, my container or bottle if you're using one, up to about 3/4 full of cooking oil. I guess just taking it really nice and easy. And as you can see, the oil and the water is separating because of the different densities. Okay. And I guess you can see already there are some bubbles emerging. We're going to see if we can kind of work with that reaction. This is optional. Can you get the fizz? I'll put it. Amazing. So this bit is optional. If you're adding food colouring, I'm just going to show you in another clear container, but if you just want to add it in straight away, that's totally fine. I'm going to put a little bit of food colouring in, bit of blue, and then I'm going to add my vinegar. I've got my white wine vinegar. I'm sure lots of other vinegars work just as well. So I'm going to add about that much. But I find a lot of recipes recommend a tablespoon. I think that's what's detailed on the making guide. But I find the vinegar's a thing you can keep on adding. Hello! So we can start off with this amount first and keep on adding. So I'm just going to pop this closer to you guys so you can see, and I'm going to very, very slowly start adding the vinegar. Ooh. Oh, thanks. So as I'm adding the vinegar, I'm just topping up the reaction. So if you want to, you can add yours all in one go, but I'm just doing it bit by bit. So this is just the white wine vinegar and food colouring. If you have another kind of vinegar, I will show you what happens. So this is malt vinegar, and hopefully this should just make the same kind of reaction but a different kind of bubble, a different colour bubble. Maybe it's a little bit hard to see, but it's getting a little bit more brown. Brilliant. So this reaction won't last forever, but it's up to you if you want to keep on going and keep on adding little bits of vinegar until you use up all the baking powder. And then when you're ready, if you'd like to keep your experiment, you can transfer it to a bottle, at which there will be a little bit of residue at the bottom, but it doesn't really affect on how it can be used as a sensory bottle in itself. So it's a little bit longer lasting. Great, I'm just going to pop this to one side. Yeah, it's still fizzling out a little bit. Cool. And then, I guess if you don't have the bits that make it fizzy, that make it a lava lamp, the baking powder or the vinegar, I've read that you can use lemon juice instead of vinegar as well. Or if you've just got the oil and the water, this is just a sensory bottle that just has the malt vinegar, a few like odd bits and bobs like sequins and a few buttons, and it sort of works as a nice sensory tool within itself. So that's always an option. Great. So just a few gentle reminders with this experiment. It's definitely not ingestible, and if and when you're disposing of it, just make sure you don't tip it down the sink because it's got a lot of oil in it. So if you're a child, just ask an adult about disposing it safely, and label it so no one mistakes it for something that can be edible. Cool, so we're nearly there with it's nearly all finished. But I find like lava lamps just as a tool really lovely sort of ways of just relaxing and focusing on sort of what happens. If you're in a particularly dark room, maybe you could shine a light or a torch through it and see if that has a different effect. Great, so that's one activity. That's one sort of sensory relaxing tool. I'm going to show you another one. I'm just going to pop this to one side. Our next sensory tool is a squashy. Oh, we've just got a comment that says, I would love to make a giant one. Yeah, I'd love to make a giant one too. Or one that just doesn't stop fizzing, one that just continues. Definitely. Cool. Hello. So there are lots of options for making squashy tactile objects out there. I'm just going to show you two of them. And if you have any other like squashy objects at home, feel free to add them to the comments, and maybe like if you have your own version of these kind of like squashy things that we're making today, feel free to add them in the comments too. So for the first one, we are going to need, my screen keeps on going dark, don't know why it's doing that. We are going to need some balloons, so at least 2 of them. If you've got more, that's great, you can make more. We are going to need a way of blowing up our balloons, so I've just got a balloon pump, or you can blow them up yourselves. If you're blowing them up yourselves, just remember to take nice deep breaths between. There's no rush whatsoever. We are going to need some flour. So I've just got plain flour, but It doesn't matter too much whether it's self-raising or just plain or even corn flour, but please do be mindful if it needs to be gluten-free or if you are sharing this object between lots of people, and just be mindful of the different needs. Or if it's a present for someone, yeah, just be mindful if it does need to be gluten-free. We are going to need a spoon and a funnel and a pair of scissors. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to inflate these balloons, and we're going to release all of the air. Going to do the second balloon. Great. So with our first balloon, which is going to be the balloon that's going to be on the inside, so if there's, I think I want my squashy to be blue this time, so I'm going to start off with the yellow one. We are going to pop our funnel through the neck of the balloon. This might be a bit tricky, so if you need help, just ask an adult. And we are going to fill it with, we're just going to fill our empty inflated balloon with flour. So I'm doing this quite speedily, but please do take your time. The funnel does tend to get a bit congested, so it's a case of maybe just swirling your flour around or using your spoon handle just to clear it up a bit. Cool. Keep on going. So I've said about a cup's worth of flour on the making guides. Don't worry, it sort of depends on the size of your balloon, and it depends on lots of different factors, and whether you just like your squashy to be smaller, so you don't actually have to use a whole cup's worth. You can just sort of decide to stop whenever. Cool. We've got a comment that says that the precious flour is very precious. I like to think that this is a way of extending its life somewhat, even if it's not through eating it. You kind of get to keep it in this squishy forever. Okay, so I filled it sort of up to about here at the moment, and I'm going to try not to fill the neck, but if you end up filling the neck, that's totally fine. It just makes it a little bit easier when we slide the funnel off. Put that to one side. It just makes it a little bit easier to tie a knot in the neck. So I'm going to very carefully tie a knot. This is a bit tricky, so if you're a child and if you need help from an adult, or if you're an adult need help from an adult, feel free to ask. It's a little bit inflated at the moment, but this will eventually go. So with our second balloon and our scissors, I'm just going to very carefully cut off the neck because we won't need that part. And I'm going to use this second balloon as a sort of covering for the first one. I'm going to very slowly fit it over. If you have more than one balloon, you can fit another one over, again cutting off the neck. But yeah, you're ready, you're good to go, you've got your squishy. This one has a little bit of air in it, but eventually it will come out. It's up to you. You can put a bit of tape over this bit if you don't want to see it. I've got some examples of other squishies that I've made before. You can decorate it with pens, you can animate it, you can stick stickers on it, you can put little pom-poms on it. It's completely up to you. I found with these squishy objects that they're quite good just for stacking. They remind me a little bit of pebbles, and I've just spent a lot of time just looking at them and seeing if I can make them into a cube, or if I can sort of manipulate the shape. This one is just a single balloon. It doesn't have a covering, and it works just as well, but I would recommend, if you have two balloons, just using that extra balloon as a cover, just in case of any spillages. If there are any spillages, don't worry at all. Just be mindful, again, going back to that gluten-free or not gluten-free, just be mindful of the people who are around and involved. Great. So I've also seen a really nice variation which uses like a soft round sponge instead of flour. So if you don't have flour, that might be quite a nice option, and it just produces a springier kind of effect. Cool. Oh, another thing is, when I was washing them, sort of water makes them quite sticky, so you can like create quite nice sculptures or quite nice arrangements because there's a kind of stickiness between each one. So you might want to try that out as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you another version, another way of making a squishy. It's pretty much the same, but it uses rice and tights, and it's a kind of softer version of what we've just explored, and potentially bigger. Maybe just one thing to point out with these, they are quite small, so keep an eye on little ones. Okay, so we are going to need a pair of tights for our second squishy version. This one only has one leg, as I've used already, but yours will hopefully have two. Just check it doesn't have any holes in it. So we're going to need a pair of tights. They should be clean and without any holes. We are going to need some rice, doesn't matter what kind, or grains if you have any, and I guess that's it, that's all we need. I'll show you some additional options afterwards. So with your pair of tights, choose a leg and choose how big you would like your squishy to be. So I've seen ones that use the whole leg, which are fantastic, but I think I'll just go for one about this big. If you're not sure, it's better to cut off a little bit more than usual, and then you can always edit down. So I'm going to cut off a tight leg. Take your time whilst you're doing this. You can take a bit of time. Okay. So I've got one sort of foot long sock, and it's basically just filling this leg with rice. Again, you can use the funnel that we used for our previous squishy. I'm going to use this tube. If you don't have a tube, you can pour it straight from the packet, or you could even create your own tube out of a roll of paper. Cool. And the amount of rice that you use depends on how full you'd like it, but I think I'm happy with that amount. So we have got, oh, I've got a comment that says great sound. Yeah, I've forgotten about the sound that it might make. When you're happy with the size of your squishy, you can either tie it at the top, so you've got space for the rice to move. I think I'll probably tie it around, or midway, and cut off the excess. There you go, so you've got one squishy object made with rice and tights. Optional, if you would like to, you can always, with your other the other tight leg, or if you've got another pair of tights, you can always double up like we did with the balloons. You can fit pom-poms, you can fit different things in it. So these are a few examples, or like softer textures, bits of string. It also works with a sock. You could also use a sock, or like additional pom-poms. I've got one here that has some lavender stuffed in it, or if you've got other scents and herbs. Yeah, you could use string and sort of use it. One word of warning, just a little bit of a reminder, if your squishy rice tart is quite long, just to keep an eye out, especially for little ones, if they are tempted to put them around their necks. It's sort of, yeah, just keep an eye out. They are really lovely objects to have around, and especially to create that kind of weighted effect on your body, but just keep an eye out if it's around anyone's necks. Great, so the third and last thing, thank you for your comments. The third and last thing I'm going to show you, I'm just going to move these to one side, are just a few little objects, a few little breathing tools that I use to sort of reground myself. I just find useful to have around the space. So like with these squishies and like with the sensory bottles, it's quite nice just to have like objects around your space that might help you sort of relax or reground, or if you're doing work, or if you're sort of, yeah, absorbed in another activity, just another object to play with. So third thing I'm going to show you are these little shapes, which I've just made quite simply from cardboard on one side, and then they're covered with fabric on the other side. So this one has velvet, this one has some crepe paper and a string, and this one is made out of felt. So I guess these are just really simple devices that I use just to help me focus on my breathing. So this one's easier to see with this light. So as I hold it and use one finger to breathe in really slowly, I'm breathing out on the other side, and as I make my way around, I'm just sort of regulating my breathing in a really simple way, using a really simple tool that can just help me reground. So triangles and hexagons and squares and everything works, and it might just be a sort of nice sort of way of visualizing as you breathe deeply and sort of just de-stress in a way. Another little tool you could make is this little pom-pom string. So I think I made this originally to wear, but I found that it was quite a nice tool. It's just 5 pom-poms threaded onto an elastic, just quite a nice tool. So as I breathe in, the elastic expands, and as I breathe out, the pom-poms come together. So again, just a really nice sort of visual way of breathing. Cool. So we'd love to hear if you've made along today, or if you have any other tools for breathing or regrounding yourself or de-stressing and relaxing. We'd just love to hear them all. Feel free to tag us at Hello Tana and with the hashtag Makeshift Studio. Again, just check with anyone if you are using their photo, just check they're okay before you upload it. Oh, thanks for your comments. Yeah, we've got a really lovely comment. This is such a good playful reminder to breathe deeply. I think so often we can sort of like rush around and not, at least for me, I feel like I need a visual or an object to keep in touch with. Cool. So I'm gonna share what I get up to with these objects, and if you'd like to revisit any of the activities or even this one, making guides and the recorded video will be uploaded later this week onto Instagram, onto Tana Eastbourne's Facebook and website. So feel free to share with anyone if you think they might be interested, and a massive thank you for coming along and sharing your wonderful ideas and this space. Oh, thank you. Thursday afternoons for me, these past couple of weeks have been such a joy, just like such a joy to spend it with you guys. So thank you so much, and take care. Thank you. See you soon. Stay tuned for more activities in town at Eastbourne. Thank you. Bye. Oh, thank you so much. Definitely stay tuned. Definitely. Thank you. Bye. Bye, guys. Thank you.